Hello.
My name is Zacchaeus. It is wonderful to meet all of you. But I have one question that I want to ask you. And that question is this. When you want to see Jesus, what are you expecting? Are you expecting change to happen when you encounter Jesus? Are you expecting Jesus to make a difference in your life and in your work? My story comes late in the book of Luke. In fact, you encounter me for the first time in chapter 19. There's only 6 chapters left before the book ends. And yet, in that story about me, there are some good news, there's some bad news, and then there's some good news. And the good news, I wanted to see Jesus. I wanted to see this man who I had heard all these stories about feeding the 5,000. Stories about how powerful his sermons and teachings were. Stories about miracles of raising people. I wanted to see Jesus. But there was stuff that got in my way. The crowd, for one. You learn about me from Luke. You find out that I was a little short guy. In fact, in your generation, you sing that song about me. Zacchaeus was a wee little man, and a wee little man was he. I'll forgive you for singing that song about how short I am. But you also learn some things about me that are not so pleasing. Not things I'm not proud about. Things I wouldn't write home about. You hear that I am the chief tax collector. That means that I've worked my way up the ladder. I was a publican. That's another word they use for tax collectors. And tax collectors in our day were notorious people. You know, in your day, you had that little form. What do you call it? The 1040 something. 1040 easy, 1040 this, that, 1040 S, whatever it is. People I've watched crunching numbers, juggling numbers, figuring out how they can cheat the government and not pay all that the government is owed. But in my day, you didn't have to worry about cheating on your taxes. Because I was cheating you out. You see, I collect more money than really was what was due to the government. I give the Romans their part, because I didn't want to get in trouble with the Romans, and I pocket the rest of yours. And that's how I made my money. Perhaps you see it all around in your world this day. People who are not honest. right on the spot. Yeah, I cheated people. Not proud of that now, as I look back. But Jesus was coming to town. And I wanted to know about this man. I wanted to see this man. But stuff got in the way. What gets in the way of you seeing Jesus? All that stuff. The crowd. You remember I'm a short man. The crowd was in my way. But I think as I look back, there was more stuff in the way of me seeing Jesus. Maybe it was my busy schedule. Maybe it was other things that kept me from seeing Jesus. But you know, I did something about that. As Jesus was coming through, and I'm trying to see through the crowds. I took initiative. I ran ahead of the crowd. I shimmied up the tree. And I waited for Jesus to come by. And Jesus came by. And Jesus came to the spot. But you know, as I think about it, maybe I didn't take the initiative. Maybe it was Jesus who took the initiative first. Somehow, with all that foliage and all those leaves, he knew I was there. He came to that spot. We all have a spot. A spot where Jesus needs to come and stand in our situations. My spot was I was lonely. I was hated. I was despised. I didn't have very many friends. And I couldn't talk about it with my family. I didn't want them knowing what I really was doing. But Jesus, to that spot. And he looked up and he said to me, Zacchaeus, come down immediately, because I must stay at your house. Wow. He knows me by name. Wow. He wants to go to my house. What kind of man is this? I shimmied down the tree as quick as I could. But you know something? I learned Jesus doesn't work by appointments. He said, come down immediately. Immediately meant Jesus didn't work by appointments. We couldn't schedule Jesus into my life, into your life. So I came down, I responded. He went to my house. He ate dinner with me. And there were whispers all over the town. Ooh, he eats with sinners and tax collectors. But I'm so glad. I'm so glad that Jesus saw me up in that tree and said, come down. I must. It wasn't wishy-washy. It was, I must go to your house. Jesus. I wanted to see him, but I think he saw me. He saw my situation. He saw my pain. He saw my hurt. He saw my brokenness. He saw my sins. But that didn't matter.